Hello guys, today I'll be reviewing the Black Album by Metallica. Definitely a big selling album for this band. Maybe their most best-selling album for sure, and it's still doing numbers today. It's sold many copies. You could maybe make the argument that it's maybe the biggest metal album of all time. But yeah, it definitely made a big impact on metal in general, and it's definitely has a share of songs that have much influence on many bands and stuff like that in general. But yeah, while not my favorite Metallica album, there is no denying the greatness and the impact of this album for sure, especially at its time. Some people point to it as their best, while some others point to like Ride the Lightning or Master of Puppets. For me, I point to Ride the Lightning as their best, but if you're over to point to Master of Puppets, that's definitely not a wrong choice either. But yeah, Black Album. This album, of course, you can tell that they're moving a bit more away from thrash and going a bit more commercial, a bit more groovy, you could say. But anyways, let's go ahead and dive into the album. The album starts off with Enter Sandman, and you can maybe make the argument this is maybe their most overplayed song, and understandably so. Now, either way, still at the end of the day, it's still a great song. It definitely has one of the most iconic main riffs in metal at this point, and even you can even say that the solo is kind of iconic too. It's definitely memorable, and you also have the chorus, which is simple and straight to the point. It's catchy, memorable, and one of those choruses that can maybe get stuck in your head. Lyrically, it's about nightmares, and yeah, it was the lead-off single for this album, and it was definitely not a bad choice. It definitely did numbers, and it's still a big song that's still played today. But anyways, let's go ahead and dive into the next track, Sad But True. Of course, a big standout with this song are the riffs, and basically with the riffs you have the beefiness and just the overall weight of the riffs just really pull you into this song. Lyrically, it's about blind faith in religion, and I'm sure there are some people out there that can definitely understand and maybe even relate to the lyrics in the song. But yeah, it was another single from the album, another big song or popular song for the band, and it's a pretty catchy song for sure. Now, of course, there are some bands out there that have tried to come close to some of the greatness of these songs. I mean, you have the song "This Means War" by Avenged Sevenfold that definitely sounds a lot like "Sad But True," and even Kid Rock borrowed the riff from this song, and we're not going to go there. We're just going to end it off right there, but with Kid Rock. But "Sad But True," definitely a big song, definitely a great song. Sure, maybe a bit overplayed, but still at the end of the day, I still think it's a pretty good song. But then you get to Holier Than Thou, and I think this song is kind of an underrated gem. A bit of a shorter track. I believe it's a hair under 4 minutes, and it's a bit more upbeat, a bit more faster in tempo. Now, not thrash, but a little bit faster compared to some of the other songs on the album. But this song has always really gripped me ever since the first time I heard this song or listened to the album in full. This was always one of the standouts for me. Now, fun fact, this song was actually a potential single. There was talks about this song being a potential single during the making of this album, actually, but of course that never happened, and Enter Sandman ended up being the lead-off single. But either way, it's still a pretty good song. The rhythm work is another thing that really pulls you into the song, especially. But then we get to the song "The Unforgiven." Maybe my favorite ballad from these guys. Well, okay, maybe top 3. Fade to Black is probably my favorite of their ballads, but Unforgiven's probably top 3. Sure, it's maybe a bit overplayed, but it's a song for me that'll never get old personally. But definitely one of the best singles on the album for me, in my opinion. Maybe one of the best songs on the album too. The emotion, the melody. It really, all these things really pull you into the song. And then you also have the solo, which is maybe one of the best solos on the album. But yeah, definitely another highlight on the album, and not a bad choice for a single. But then we get to the song "Wherever I May Roam," and kind of unique within the singles. You have the Asian influence going on with some of the overall sounds that you get in the song with some of the riffs. But I believe in the original version of the song, they used a gong and another Asian type of instrument. I'm blanking out on what it is at the moment. I think it was some kind of sitar guitar or something like that. But Wherever I May Roam, another pretty good song that I don't really think to return to very often. But either way, it's still a pretty good song. A bit of a more longer song in general, but still pretty good in my opinion. But what really pulls me into the song the most is probably the rhythm work. But next we have the song Don't Tread on Me, and this is another example of a Metallica song that shows or proves how well Metallica can be with their rhythm section. But yeah, this is another song that I've always really dug ever since the first time I heard this album in full. Maybe not top 5, but if it's not one of my favorites on the album, it's maybe an honorable mention because a bit of a shorter track, but also pretty catchy and memorable, in my opinion, but also lyrically a bit more political too. But yeah, overall, not a bad song. But then we get to the song Through the Never, another more upbeat, energetic song that I think is pretty catchy and kind of a banger, to be honest. But then we get to Nothing Else Matters, another single off the album. I've heard multiple interpretations of what the lyrics are about in this song. The two that I hear the most are that it's about an ex-girlfriend of James, or it's either about the fans. But either way, still a good song. It's a power ballad. The melody really, of course, pulls into this song, and James is really pouring out his emotion into the song as he's delivering the lyrics, and overall, not a bad song. Not my favorite of their singles, but still, either way, still a great song. But then you get to the song of Wolf and Man, and I think this is another song on the album, kind of like with Holier Than Thou, that I think is pretty underrated. Definitely one of the I'll go ahead and say I think it's one of the highlights of the second half of the album. What really stands out to me in this track is really the guitar work. This song might have some of my favorite riffs on the album, to be honest. But then you get to the song The God That Failed, and this song is basically about our reliance on faith and how unrewarding it can be. In this case, it has to do with James losing his mother, of course, to death, but not one of my personal favorites on the album, but I do like it though. A bit slower in tempo / rhythm, but overall not a bad song. But then we get to My Friend of Misery, and of course Jason Newsted contributed to this song when it comes to songwriting credits. I believe he wrote the main riff of this song, if I remember correctly, but another song on the album that's not one of my personal favorites, but I do like it though. I'd say it's maybe unique on the album. But then you get to finally the album closer, The Struggle Within. And yeah, this is another underrated song on the album in my opinion. Maybe the most fast or upbeat song on the album. It's a bit shorter. Lyrically, I think I've only heard this once, but I believe it's about the anger that James was feeling when it came to writing the lyrics of the song. But yeah, either way, still a pretty catchy song. I like the energetic aspect of the song and how upbeat it is, and I also think the solo is kind of underrated too. I do wish it was maybe a little bit longer, but either way, still a pretty solid song and not a bad way to end off the album. But anyways, if I had to rate this album, I'd maybe give it maybe an 8.5. Now, my score, of course, could change at any time, and I've mentioned that in some of my other reviews too when it comes to my scores, but for now, I'll go with an 8.5. Again, not my favorite Metallica album, but it is, when it comes to ranking their albums, it is closer to the top, of course. But anyways, let me know your thoughts on the album. Do you love it? Do you hate it? How does it compare to their other albums for you personally? And all that good stuff. But anyways, thanks for watching. Please comment, like, subscribe. Have a nice day, and take care.